Hello everyone, Mr. Love here from the Diesel Shop. Today we're going to be talking about this Daewoo G25s forklift that we use around here. We're going to get familiar with it, we're going to talk about some safety stuff on it, and we're going to show you how to operate it. Let's get started. You always want to make sure you have on the proper attire for being around equipment and working with it. So we're going to have on a good shirt, either some sort of button-down work shirt or some other heavy shirt. We're going to have on either work pants or jeans. We're going to have on boots. We're going to have on our safety glasses. If we're working outside a lot, we'll have on some sort of hat just to keep the sun off our head. This is a propane forklift. It has this propane cylinder on the back. We want to make sure this propane cylinder is nice and attached in here. Make sure the line's on it. Make sure that there's gas in there. There's two different readings on here. There's a vertical reading, which is the tank was up and down, or the horizontal one, the way it's laying right now. See, we're about 3/8 of a tank. So that's good for what we have to do today. We have our fuel line here. Want to make sure the fuel line looks like it's in good shape. Whenever this is on, you'll smell a little bit of propane smell, but it shouldn't be a constant, overwhelming smell. To do our daily check, we're going to check all the tires, make sure they're not squatting. We're just going to walk around this. We're going to do a little circle of safety, checking the equipment and checking the surrounding areas. We have our forks here. That's our mast that goes up and down, that raises the forks up and down. We want to make sure there's nothing stuck in there. There's moving chains and cylinders inside there. The hoses go up and down. We want to make sure there's not any debris in there, a piece of wood, something like that. You want to look under the piece of equipment, make sure there's no oil or antifreeze or anything pooling up underneath there. Want to check our hydraulic lines, give them a visual inspection, make sure there's not hydraulic oil everywhere, showing that they're leaking. We'll look down in here. It's a good pinch point for something to fall down in and wedge you up. Again, a block of wood, a chain, something like that, just some trash. Make sure it's nice and clear down in there. There is a fuel cap on here, but there's nothing in there. Remember, this one's propane. They just have that on there in case it was a diesel one. Okay, so let's check under the hood, make sure our oil's good. To raise the hood on this, there's just a little latch right here in front. Just squeeze it, and it pops right up for you. We'll have a nice clean rag. We'll reach down in here to the dipstick, pull it out, wipe it off, reinsert it down in the hole, pull it out again, and now we can check our level. We're right here on the full level, where we need to be. If it was down to the add level, then we would put the appropriate oil inside there. We wipe it off again and reinsert it. Here we have our coolant jug. You can see the level indicator right here. It says our coolant level is full, so that's good. Over here we have an air restriction indicator. You can see this red line here. So if our air cleaner was being plugged up, this would move up and be solid red right now. If it was solid red, we would pull out our air cleaner and either change that out or clean it if we could. We'll inspect our battery over here, make sure there's no corrosion or anything on it. Just give the belts a good inspection down there. Make sure, again, nothing's in there. Make sure the belt's not frayed. Check our hydraulic fluid level. Good there. So that's all we need to check under the hood here for a daily inspection. If this was preventive maintenance inspection, we would go all through everything and really check everything out. But all you need to do under the hood here is check the fluid levels and just the condition of everything around the surrounding area. Okay, now we can shut the hood. We're just going to push down on it until it latches. So it's latched down for us here. It's good to go. Another thing we want to check on our daily inspection is the seat belt. Pull the seat belt all the way out. Make sure there's no cuts or frays in there. This forklift has a rollover protection device on it. So whenever we run anything with a rollover protection device, we sit inside there. We have our seat belt across our lap and fastened at all times. Okay, now let's get up there and check out the controls. There is a step on both sides. But whenever possible, you should never use the step on the side that the controls are on, just so you don't hit the controls while you're getting up. So you usually always get on from the left side. So we're going to climb up here now using our 3 points of contact. So 1 hand, 2 feet, 2 hands, 1 foot. We're going to grab the grab handle here, put our foot in here, grab the other handle on our seat here, and we're going to pull ourselves up. Okay, now that we're seated in the seat, we can see the other controls. So over here we have 3 levers. The first lever here is going to be up and down of the forks. So if I pull it back, the forks are going to go up. Push it forward, the forks are going to go down. This one here is tilt forward and back. If I push it forward, it's going to tilt forward. If I pull it back, it's going to tilt back. This third one over here, you don't need too often. This is going to be a left to right shift, where it'll shift the fork assembly left to right, but it only goes probably 6 inches either way from center. So it doesn't gain you very much, but every now and then you need to just hit it over a little bit to get into a pallet a little better in a tight spot. Okay. Over on this side, we have our parking brake. So to release it, you pull back just a little bit, push down on the knob, and push forward. To apply it, you just have to pull it back. You'll hear it lock in. Down here we have 3 pedals. We have our throttle pedal. The farther you push that down, the higher the engine RPMs go. Here we have a brake pedal. And here we have a clutch pedal. Up here we have our shuttle shifter. Forward, reverse. There's no other gears on this. All we have is forward and reverse. Okay, we did our inspection. We got to know the controls a little bit. So now let's fire it up. Okay, so here we have our propane tank. So first thing we're going to do each day, we're going to just turn this on. Just give it a couple little turns there. It doesn't need to be fully opened up. Okay, so at this point now, you shouldn't be able to smell any gas. If all these lines and everything are attached the way they're supposed to be, we should be good to go. Okay, we're going to come back over to our left-hand side here, use our 3 points of contact. We're going to grab up here, put our foot down here, grab onto the seat here, and we're going to pull ourselves up. Okay, we're seated in the seat. We have our seat belt on. We're going to turn our key. We're not going to turn it all the way to start. We're just going to turn it on a little bit. So what this does, especially on propane stuff, it lets the valve open up and lets the propane flow into the engine. If this has been sitting for a while and I just turn it on and start cranking right now, it's not going to fire at all because the propane's not to the engine yet. So we'll turn it on. We'll let it sit for like 5 seconds. Then we're ready to turn this all the way. If for some reason this was in forward or reverse, it wouldn't start right now for me. So have to have it in neutral. Then just turn the key. Fires right up. So raise my forks up a little bit. Release my parking brake. I'll push it forward to go forward. Reverse to go reverse. You'll hear the beeper when you're in reverse. My throttle pedal over here revs up the engine. My brake right here. Most of the time all you're going to need is the throttle and the brake. So push on the throttle when you're moving. Release the throttle, push on the brake when you're stopped. The clutch over here, the benefit to this is if you're in gear, you can push down on this clutch here and you can rev up the engine at the same time. It'll run your controls up faster. If I just pulled the handle right now with it idling, it goes up pretty slow, but if I revved it up, it goes up faster, especially when you're picking up something heavy. We're ready to back outside. Check your surroundings. Make sure no one's behind you or around you. If you have someone to spot for you, have them motion you and check the surroundings as you go. So we're just going to have our foot on the brake here while we're sitting. We have it in reverse, then just let our foot off the brake. Give it a little throttle and we'll start moving. So this is rear wheel steer, so it turns a lot different than anything that you're used to that would front rear. So it turns a lot different than anything that you're used to where the front wheels steer. So I'll show you how tight we can go around here. So you can see it down there, the rear wheels. So I could almost do a 0-degree turn where I could turn around in my own width. See, I can turn around pretty tight radius. We don't need to sit out here and do donuts or anything with it, but just showing you how tight it steers. It comes in handy when you're putting stuff up on shelves and stuff. Okay, so let's go over and pick up a pallet. Okay, we have a pallet right here. Right now though, our forks are wider than the pallet is. So we're going to put this in neutral. Apply our parking brake. We're going to give it just a little gas and we're going to raise up our forks. Get them to about waist level. Okay, we're going to shut off the equipment. Then we're going to get out and adjust our forks here. So one thing you never want to do with any equipment that's up in the air is get underneath it. Right here is not too dangerous of a level because it's waist high, but if it was way up in the air and it was above your head, it could come crashing down on your head if any of these hoses or anything fail. So to adjust our forks, we're going to lift up on this pin right here on the forks. You can see there's little notches that the forks ride on. So we have that pin up and we're just going to slide it over by hand. Then we're going to push that pin back down and it locks into place for us. We can do that with both sides, get them pretty even. We're just going to push it over. Lock it into place. Okay, now we should be the right width to pick up that pallet. Okay, we're back on our piece of equipment. Push on the brake pedal, start it up, release our parking brake. Going to lower the control down to the level that we need. And we're going to line our forks up with the pallet. We're going to try to get it as close as we can to center of the pallet. So you want to come in as low as you can, but not close to the ground. So we're going to come in, you're going to want to make sure you're on a pretty stable surface. And you're going to just slowly go into it. You don't want to ram into it. If this pallet was stacked high with stuff, it would get knocked over right now. Okay, we're all the way into the pallet. Now we could raise it up. We're going to tip it back a little bit so it stays level. Okay, so depending on the surface that you're on, you're only going to want this less than a foot off the ground. If you're going under uneven, or if you're going over uneven terrain, you're going to want it a little bit higher, but you never want to run with it way up in the air. It really messes with your center of gravity. Okay, so we got our pallet picked up. We're going to check around us. Okay, now we're going to back up. We're going to take our pallet to over where we want it. We're going to lower our pallet down. So we're going to lower it down to the ground, and we're going to tip it forward a little bit. Make sure it sits on the ground flat. Okay, once it's down, then just slowly back out of the pallet. Make sure you raise your forks back up, and you're good to go. The forks go up pretty high. Give it a little throttle here. We're only going to run it up there though when we need to pick up something off a top shelf or something. We're not going to ever drive around with it up there. It makes the forklift very unstable. Okay, so lower it down. Remember, we always want to drive with it less than a foot off the ground. That way if you do hit something or someone, it's at a low level where it won't kill anybody. Something you want to watch out for, the rear steering, is watch where it cuts around at. Like I could turn pretty sharp. But you can see it's headed close to that table, so you got to be careful when you're turning. So I can turn right around in the shop here. You just got to watch your surroundings. Okay, so when we're all done, we're going to put it in neutral. Pull back on our parking brake all the way. Lower our forks down all the way. So even if you lower it all the way down to the ground, with this style here, the forks aren't touching yet. So we're going to lower the mast all the way down, and then we're going to tip the forks forward. Make sure they're nice and flat on the ground. That way it's less of a tripping hazard for somebody. Okay, so we got everything good to go. We're going to shut it off. Undo our seatbelt. Okay, then we're going to get off the equipment using 3 points of contact. We're going to come over to our propane tank. We're going to shut it off all the way.